From idea to working prototype in just 3 days. Today, a founder walks us through a demo showing us in real time how quickly AI is changing the game for app developers and what that means for the rest of us. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Our guest today is angel investor, former founder, and CTO Dave Smith. Hey, Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Julie, glad to be here.
I can't wait to dive into this conversation, Dave. You literally woke up one morning with an idea, and by the time your head hit the pillow that night, you had an app in process. Tell us first about this idea. Let's start there. What was this idea? What did you build?
Oh my gosh. So I wear one of these rings that's constantly tracking my heart rate and sleep and all of that so I can stay healthy. The problem is, Julie, is that it produces all this data in my phone, but then I don't make any lifestyle changes based on it. So pretty much I'm just collecting data like a nerd, and I check it religiously, and I always want to have it collecting data, but I never put the data to use to improve my health. And so my idea that morning was, what if I shove this into Chat GPT? And that this is one of these AI tools. And the cool thing about it is it can look at a whole lot of data and figure things out where it'd be hard for a person, to look through reams and reams of data. And this thing puts out a ton of data. I had no idea how much data this thing puts out. So that was the idea.
So we're talking a ring, kind of like an Apple Watch, but this also, what kind of data does this ring collect?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So it's tracking my sleep and my sleep stages, my beats per minute for my heart, my breathing rate, my heart rate variability, which I don't even really know what that thing is.
Okay, so this thing is collecting data on you at all times of the day and night. So, but you're saying it just simply collects the data. Does it tell you what to do with that data?
I think it's supposed to, but just everybody I've talked to, nobody's really getting, Aura's not saying, hey, Dave, this is what you need to do. It's not, if it is telling us what to do, it's not clear enough. I just want some orders of, hey, go to bed at 9:30, read for an hour before bed, those kind of prescriptive ideas or
I see. So you basically want the instruction manual for life that none of us ever get. Now you're going to take this data from your Aura ring that essentially has all the information on how you're living your life and plug it into Chat GPT. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so pretty much like I can't figure myself out. So I'm wondering if this computer can figure me out, based on my own data, and yeah, tell me how to live healthier.
Okay, so let's explore that a little bit further. So, what you have a demo to show us? Can you show us like what kind of information are you actually putting into Chat GPT, and what is it telling you back, and how does this somehow evolve into an app?
Yeah. Okay. So here we'll hop in here, and so you can see on this screen. So we got Physic AI, and I forgot to mention too. So actually, I didn't build this initial version. I had these two great students from MSU, Logan Maroff and Riley Cook. So they're the geniuses, who actually like took the vision and knocked this thing out in a couple of days, and they came up with this cool name for it too, Physic AI. So you can see right away it shows my age, my weight, my height, if I'm male or female. So there's a step before I even said anything. This connected to the Aura, the company, and pulled down all of the data between April 6th and April 13th. And then it's showing you the data that it's got. So it's talking about my daily readiness, my sleep, my daily activity, my heart rate. And then it's talking about, based on the data provided, what it thinks about it. And then one of the really cool things about this app is it also helps you. So, first it's telling you a bunch of stuff. And then it also says a question you can learn more to ask about your health is, what specific steps can I take to improve my sleep efficiency and overall health? And I think it's so amazing, Julie, that the computer's not just sitting there waiting for commands from us. You can, it's like writer's block. If you're sitting to write a story, the hardest thing is those first few words. So this thing's telling us a bunch of stuff. And then it's also saying, hey, here's a starting place. but
So
I want to.
essentially, Dave, you're saying that you can use the Aura API to pull someone's data that their ring is collecting, and you and your team, Riley and Logan, were able to build this that we're seeing here, that then pulls that data, starts to now give some information back to you. And there are prompts. So are these prompts then that are prompting the user to ask more questions, or what is this that we're seeing here that you were just describing that question?
Yeah. So yeah, it tells us all this stuff, and then it says, a question you can ask to learn more about your health is, what specific steps can I take to improve my sleep efficiency and overall health? And so we can take its advice, or in my case, I'm just going to ask it something. I'm not actually going to ask it anything. I'm just going to tell it more stuff. So I'm going to give it some context, and I'm going to talk about some of my lifestyle. So then it'll have the Aura Ring data, and it will have like what I say about what's going on with me. So, I'll talk about my daily stress, that we've been in California, the different time zones, that I've been waking up early in the morning, that I usually eat meats and vegetables, but we've been eating out a lot this week. And then I broke my foot. So I'm going to, additionally shove all that data into the system as well. So then I put that in there. And then this system takes into account that information plus all the data it's got before, and gives some ideas. And then it says, how can I maintain, it's got a question that it suggests to learn more about my health. How can I maintain a healthy lifestyle and sleep routine while traveling and dealing with my foot injury? So, it's recognizing that, hey, I'm traveling and I've got this foot injury.
So this looks pretty cool, Dave, I have to say, because as someone who has worn an Apple Watch, not quite fancy enough for a ring, it really seems like one of the downfalls of these types of devices is that it's feeding us the data, it's feeding us the information. But as you mentioned there earlier, one word you said really stood out to me, and that's the word context. It lacks the context of the fact that you broke your foot, what kinds of foods you're eating, what other stressors might be going on in your life. And so first of all, the user is left to just take this raw data and figure out what to do with it. Like, for instance, I'm not sleeping at night. Like, well, okay, maybe I already knew that in some form or fashion, right? So, but what this now is doing, you said powered through ChatGPT, is it's giving you additional ideas, additional information based on not just the data, but now also those context clues and the environmental factors that are going on in someone's life. Is that the idea behind this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, my activity level is way down. If you look over the last 2 years, it dropped off a cliff when I broke my foot and I'm on the couch all day, instead of, getting in tens of thousands of steps per day and playing basketball and all of that. And I think, to a regular system, that'd be really confusing. They think, hey, Dave, you got to get out and you got to exercise. But, just like you said, providing that extra context, really changes the dynamic and changes the recommendations.
Where did you come up with this idea to take the data and plug it into ChatGPT?
I was actually on Twitter the week before, and someone had said ChatGPT just saved my dog's life. And I love ChatGPT. I'm using it, every day for months now, and it's really improved my life. So this caught my eye, and I was like, how is this gonna, save this person's dog's life? He'd taken his dog to the vet, and the vet had misdiagnosed his dog. So I forget exactly what happened to the dog, but the dog is like not doing well. And he takes it to the vet and the dog is getting worse. So this guy, plugs the stuff into ChatGPT, and the vet had ordered blood tests. So he also plugs the blood tests in there. And then ChatGPT is like, hey, I think it's one of these three things. One was the one the vet had already recommended. And so the guy was like, well, it's not that. And then it was the second one. The second one was the issue. And so then, he followed the directions there, and the dog got healthy. And the guy's like, man, this thing saved my dog's life. And so I got thinking, hey, if you can plug a blood test into this thing for a dog, what happens if I plug in my sleep data, and what happens there?
Yeah, how interesting. We've kind of joked in the past, or tended to joke about, all the Google MDs now that exist in this world. Well, it sounds like ChatGPT is going to give Google a run for its money here with diagnosis like this. Let's talk more about ChatGPT, because not only was that where this, we've talked on previous episodes, you can, click down below for links on productivity tools and other ways that people in business are using ChatGPT to save hours upon hours every single day. Aside from productivity, Dave, you really touched on something here that I think it could be an entirely different segment all in and of itself. How did you use ChatGPT when it came to actually developing your prototype, your working prototype of this app? How did ChatGPT speed up this timeline for you?
Julie, ChatGPT was amazing. It's hard to even put it in words for people who aren't developers, but it's almost like if you were working on like a story, a book, and you've got all your notes and everything's not organized, and you hand it over to somebody, there's gonna be a lot of learning that they're gonna have to get up to speed on. It's gonna take them a long time to, just to get back to where the original author was. And it's very similar to code. I've been coding professionally for about 20 years now. And it's so hard to take over somebody else's code because there's so much not said and so much domain specific knowledge. And it was an experience, something like I've never experienced before, where ChatGPT just gets rid of all that. And all of a sudden, I can just ask ChatGPT questions about anything there. And it's almost like I was talking to the authors of the code. So that was the first amazing thing, was it just told me like everything that I needed to know to get this thing to work. Kind of like if you get the author's notes and then it's automatically like instantly organized, as if a wizard just waved a magic wand and boom. And now you're immediately right where the author left off. And the second thing was, there's some complex code going on here. And usually it takes, many hours. It probably would have taken me about maybe a month to make some tweaks to this software, because it's really complicated. But instead, I just plugged everything into ChatGPT. And it was actually while I was on vacation and at a conference. And so I didn't have a lot of time to do it, but ChatGPT like did all the work. So I would just give it commands and instructions and paste code in there, or paste APIs in there, or paste data in there. And it would just buzzsaw through it, doing things in seconds or minutes that would take me hours or days, and just unbelievable.
So we left that part out at the top of the show. Not only did this go from idea to working prototype in a matter of days, you were on vacation, you were out of the state, you were at a conference. It's safe to say you were tied up with other things during that time. It seems like without even trying to, you hit at least some of your own records in being able to develop this app. What AI tools? So was it just ChatGPT, or talk us through the AI process there? Was it simple? Was it hard? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was primarily GPT-4, and that's a tool from OpenAI. It's $20 a month, and just well worth it. If I hired a developer to do that work, or if I took a month of my own time to do that work, we're talking thousands of dollars. If I had to hire that out to a developer shop, maybe it would have been $30,000. And instead it was, $20 for the month. And, a few hours of my time, like you said, while I was already tied up. So really amazing.
So I'm curious, we tend to ask, founders, especially app developers, about the challenges they encountered along the way. I'm curious, did AI pose any new challenges for you?
Any new challenge? I think it's only in the opportunity. I think one of the hardest things about this project is the massive amount of data coming out of this ring. And initially I wanted to take all the data. So I've been wearing this thing for like 2 years, and I wanted to take all the data and shove it in there. I can't even take one day's worth of data and shove it into there. And that might sound like, oh man, that's not much. But like if you took it into a human, a human probably couldn't even, look at a few minutes of this data or an hour of data, because there's so much being produced. And so that was really one of the big challenges. And actually Logan or Riley, one of those two, figured out some smart ways to simplify down the data. But, moving forward in this project, it needs to be, even more reduced. At the same time, though, these tools are going to be able to, ingest even more amounts of data. They can already take in, way more than a human can. And so that's going to be interesting the way that develops. But I would say, from learning from this project, that's one of the interesting concepts going forward in developing these kind of systems is really thinking almost like a human, where you have short-term memory and long-term memory, and then you go and you look things up. And these tools work very similarly to the way humans do, where, it has memory constraints. And so it needs to, summarize things and use tools to look things up. And so it's a whole new way of thinking about systems and how can we, get the right amount of data to the system at the time so that it can make determinations, and also give it a way to where it can pull the data that it needs.
That's an interesting point you bring up. When we think about summarizing data and different data points, as we're like, for instance, summarizing information, the context might change slightly. And so interesting that you're kind of equating AI back to a human brain, where as those summaries get made, does data get lost? Do things get forgotten by AI? Have you, come across that in any of your workings with it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes it'll get way off track. There was a different project I did last week, and I shared it in a blog post. But you can see that exact thing happening where I say, "Hey, I want to do this," and then through the process, it gets lost because there's so much data. And at the end, it's like doing the complete wrong thing because it just, like you said, totally forgot what we were doing from the beginning.
Interesting. And obviously a potential challenge there. I'm curious, Dave, did any new big picture goals emerge as you were going through this project? What are your views on using AI for future projects? I'm smiling because I feel like I know the answer to this, but what do you see long term?
Yeah, so I think we've all heard that thing when we got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Julie, when you've got ChatGPT 4, everything looks like, oh my gosh, why isn't this using GPT-4? I was just on the phone yesterday, those call trees, and they don't understand what you're saying. I mean, it bothered me, but now it really bothers me because it's like, oh man, if they were just using ChatGPT-4, this thing would have been done in seconds, but instead I'm like, and I just want to tear my hair out. So now when I go through life, I'm like, oh man, it'd make that better and make that better and make that better. I want it on my email. I want it for our family planning this summer for a big family event. I just want it like everywhere. It's like, gosh, it's amazing. It's like having like a personal assistant, dedicated to whatever you're doing. But not like a personal assistant who's like an expert. It's kind of crazy.
So is 4 really that much better than 3.5? Tell me, is the $20 a month worth it?
The $20 is definitely worth it. Unless you think your time is worth like nothing. I mean, I don't know how many hours it saves me per month, or new powers it enables. And I think it's hard for me to tell the difference between 4 and 3.5, but I think my excitement level of AI went up substantially. And I was thinking about that today. I think I think it went up huge when ChatGPT launched in November, and it was just like, whoa. And then I think there was another whoa moment, when 4 came, but I don't think I really realized it at that moment. And I really don't, I hardly use 3.5 at all now. And I just use 4 all the time.
I feel like I have to ask every person who's on the show, every expert who joins us for Expert Connections, who's using AI actively. We've got other countries. Italy, for instance, has banned the use. Others potentially looking at it. How would you feel if the U.S. stepped in line and either banned it or had a temporary pause of some sort?
Julie, don't scare me. Oh gosh, I just hope it doesn't happen. I mean, you have to. I mean, I saw
What
it'd be
would
so
the impact be, Dave?
it'd be so hard to leave the country, but I don't even know. Is it at that level? It's kind of like, imagine if the U.S. said you couldn't use Google, and you're like, wow, how much does your productivity drop if you can't use Google? And that'd be actually more if they dropped out ChatGPT. My Google searches are probably down 90%. And even this morning, I was Googling something and it wasn't working for me. And then I put it in ChatGPT and boom, it got it. And I'm like, why was I even Googling this to begin with? It's like I should, start with ChatGPT, and then it usually ends right there. Whatever my problem is usually solved right there with ChatGPT. It's unbelievable. It helps with, things from as simple as meal planning to, legal recommendations to coding, fixing things around the house. It's like the world before Google and after Google, and there's the world before GPT and after. It's that big, and it just blows my mind when places are banning it. For me, it's like banning Google. We're going to just really reduce people's productivity. Instead of digging with shovels, we're going to dig with our hands. I don't know why anybody would want to do that.
All right. So last question, any advice for other developers? You mentioned 2 MSU students you're working with from Michigan State University. Any guidance or advice, thoughts for developers who are using AI in order to power their projects right now?
If you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. Check out Copilot, check out GPT-4, pay for GPT-4. Even if you don't have any money, do a little freelance gig or something to definitely pay for GPT-4. And whichever one works better for you, I think it'll at least 10x your productivity, if not more. Just unbelievable.
Dave Smith, thanks so much for being here and sharing your project with us.
Thanks, Julie.
And that is all for this episode of Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Make sure to check out our other videos on AI. We'll see you next time.